Call this meeting to order. The time is 6 o'clock. Welcome to a special board meeting of the Board of Trustees of the St. Helena Unified School District. Today is Thursday, October 14th, 2021. I'm Maria Haug, Board President. I would like to introduce my fellow trustees. Board Vice President, Mrs. Lisa Pelosi. Clerk to the Board, Mr. Julio Olguin, and Trustee, Mrs. Jeannie Kerr. I would also like to introduce our district staff, Dr. Mary Lou Wilson, Superintendent, Mr. Christopher Heller, Chief Academic Human Resource Officer, Mrs. Andy Stubbs, Chief Business Official, Ms. Erica Madrigal, Executive Assistant to the Superintendent and the Governing Board, and Mr. Derek Machado, our IT Systems Analyst, working in the back. Thank you, Derek. I'd also like to recognize our district and site administrators joining us in the audience. Director of Curriculum and Instruction, Mrs. Mary Allen. District Social Worker and Community Liaison, Mrs. Roxana Plancarte. St. Helena Primary School Principal, Mrs. Rebecca Rocha. St. Helena Elementary School Principal, Ms. Tanya Pearson. St. Helena High School Principal, Mr. Benjamin Cinto. We are delighted that you are joining us in person or viewing us on television channel 27 or our YouTube channel. A copy of this board meeting video will also be available on our website at www.sthelena.unified.org. I would like to entertain a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. Thank you all for being here. Tonight we have as a result of the resignation of Trustee Forrest Minter, we voted to proceed with a provisional appointment process of trustee to the board. Everyone here has read through and satisfied the requirement. Everyone who has applied has satisfied the requirements as stated by our two reviewers, and that was, I would like to just recognize the two trustees that reviewed the applications, Trustee Kerr and Trustee Pelosi. Thank you. So first of all, what we're going to be doing is I will just go over the meeting overview. The candidates will verbally offer a statement of 3 minutes in length. The candidates will then be asked 4 additional questions in rotating order. The board will accept public comment after the candidates answer their questions, and then the board will participate in a discussion with a focus on the candidates, each of the candidates' strengths. And the board will then, I will then elicit a vote from each trustee and potentially request a motion to nominate a trustee to fill the position. If there is a tie, there will be more discussion, and then I will request a motion if there is a tie at the end. So first, I believe we will be doing we will be drawing numbers.
All candidates have drawn their numbers 1 through 4. Yes.
Oh, they have drawn their numbers. Okay. Will the candidate with number 1 please come forward with their candidate statement? Okay. Yes, Susan. And then you need to press the button on the microphone until it's green.
till it's green? It's green. Okay. I'm Susan Calkin, and I've lived in St. Helena for over 30 years, and there have only been maybe a few years where I was not involved in this school district as a parent, grandparent, employee, and volunteer. Currently, I'm on the Superintendent's Subcommittee on Curriculum, Technology, and Innovation, and I have previously been on the Subcommittee for Business Operations for several years. And I am here because, frankly, I'm passionate about education and have spent my whole life as an adult in education, starting with a really excellent education in public schools myself, so I feel very strongly about public schools in particular. And what I would bring to the board is these years of experience with varied kinds of education and very varied populations. After I got my PhD at Cal, where I was an instructor, most of my subsequent education experience was teaching, but in several innovative programs in colleges. We moved to Dallas because of my husband's job, and there I was also a parent volunteer and taught in the community colleges and at the University of Texas in Dallas. And I also administered a federal grant for the Fund for Postgraduate Education for training volunteer boards and nonprofit managers. And when we moved back to California and to St. Helena, I started out working here in St. Helena as I was in charge of the media center at the elementary school. For a variety of family and logistical reasons, I was not going to go and work and commute. I taught summer school for Butte County that had a program here for migrant education. And my last job was as a kindergarten teacher in dual immersion. I left the district to teach middle school and then spent another dozen years as an upper elementary school teacher, where I was on a variety of ad hoc district committees, school site councils. I taught evening class through Chapman University, and I was also part of a group for the Napa County Office of Education, developing career-relevant curriculum for middle and high school. And I've been as active in the community as I have been able to, allowing for time. I'm currently secretary of the St. Helena Beautification Foundation, and among other activities at the church we go to, Grace Church, I'm on the vestry, which is the church's board of directors, and I did that in Dallas as well. And promoting voter registration, so I'm in one of the groups where you see people outside the high school signing people up. And what I hope is that this demonstrates a variety of experiences with a variety of populations. I know that the challenges that I started out with are not the challenges that we face now, and they won't be the challenges that we face in the future.
Mrs. Calkins, your time is up.
Okay.
And you will have time to speak more when you answer the 4 questions, which will cover portions of what you've spoken about.
All righty, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to move quickly now that I know we have 3 minutes. Hello, good evening. I'd like to thank the school board and the superintendent for holding this special meeting to allow applicants consideration for appointment to this honorable board. So thank you very much. My name's Laura Simon, and I live in St. Helena with my husband Scott and our 2 children, Luke and Amelia, who are in 7th and 4th grade in our district. A little bit about myself. I hold a master's in education, a multiple subject credential, and a reading specialist credential. I've devoted my professional career to public education for the last 20 years. I've first taught 1st grade in an ELD classroom for the San Francisco Unified School District for 6 years, which gave me the opportunity to teach students from a variety of countries and backgrounds. It was truly rewarding. When my husband and I moved down the peninsula, I was hired to teach 2nd grade at the Woodside School District, a much smaller and affluent district from San Francisco Unified. I spent 12 wonderful years at Woodside, first as a second grade teacher, then when I completed my master's degree as a literacy specialist and an ELD teacher. When I became a specialist, the district's expectations of me shifted to more of a leadership role, where I became a coach and mentor to my colleagues. I also participated on various committees, from instructional programming to district goal setting and accountability, and to fostering inclusion and integrating diversity in all aspects of the school community. As an educator with a variety of experiences in very different school districts, as a classroom teacher and a specialist and a parent, I have learned to think objectively about issues and to make decisions on what's right, but what's not always popular. I enjoy collaborating with colleagues, and I respect others' opinions. I never learn anything from what I say, but an amazing amount from what I hear. I understand that the work the board does is challenging, requiring a great deal of time and energy, which has never frightened me away from a task. I am requesting a seat on the board simply because public education is my home. And I have the highest regard for the St. Helena School District, its administration, and its teachers. I believe my experiences in education will help to continue the fine work and further the successes of this board. Thank you very much.
Sorry. Good evening. My name is Sean Mora. I want to say it's a huge relief to have what sounds like 3 amazing candidates up here because we need it. My application talks to my long-standing commitment to public education. I serve on 3 of the St. Helena School District committees, and I'm a board member on the St. Helena Public School Foundation. I've attended all but 2 of this board's monthly meetings, whether virtual or in person, and I did watch the 2 replays that I missed. So I'm passionate about education and very involved in this school district. And I have served on school site board member for my kids' schools prior to moving here. I grew up in St. Helena and I graduated from St. Helena High. I don't typically wear this to job interviews, but I was just over at a Lady Saints soccer team, so I had to run over here with what I had on, although, Julio, you had time to change, so there goes my excuse. My job prior to moving back to St. Helena, I was a director at Citrix Systems, which is a large software company. And I was a people and project manager there, leading large project. So I think for me, the skills that aren't listed on the application that I think will benefit the district here is I'm skilled at connecting people and building relationships. My job was to bring senior leaders with differing opinions together to solve a problem and come to a common solution across people, process, and technology. I seek out differing opinions and I learn from all viewpoints. I think some of the most important work you can do is to help people understand what's motivating different opinions and then where decisions come from. I have strong readiness skills, and what that means is I focus on communication and awareness early and often, try to understand who's impacted by change and bring them into the discussion process early. And I use data to help drive decisions where possible. It's not always possible, especially in a lot of areas where it's a lot of feelings and emotion, but it's how I tend to work. I've had a child in each of the 4 schools at the district, and one thing I can say with confidence is that I've had a lot of personal experience with the schools, the kids, the parents, the teachers, the programs, the sports, the staff, and most of the district's support services. So I feel like I have a good understanding and experience with a lot of the people in the district. I decided to submit my application for the vacant trustee position because it needs to be filled by a person who is invested in our educational community and knows the types of decisions that you guys vote on. I've watched you vote on general business items as well as pretty emotionally charged topics with grace and professionalism, and I think I possess the right experience, skills, and temperament for the role. So I ask for your vote. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Barrick, And I want to first start by saying thank you for hosting this special committee and giving us an opportunity to put in our application and run for the board position. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about myself and my family. So we moved here 2.5 years ago, and when I listened to Sean, I actually know Sean, and I know Susan. Our kids are having a sleepover, well, my kid and her granddaughter. So I love small town. I did not believe in it at the very beginning because I grew up in big cities, but now I'm like, oh, it's great. Everybody is 2 degrees away. We moved here 2.5 years ago from Seattle. We lived in Seattle for 5 years. Finally, my husband was sick of the gray weather, so we wanted to move back to California. We lived in the South Bay area for many, many, many years. So I still work for a large high-tech company, Cisco Systems in San Jose, but we didn't want to go back to the Bay Area. So we started thinking about where are we going to go. My husband loves wine, so we look at Calistoga, Napa, St. Helena, and we finally settled on St. Helena because of the school. And that's the most important reason why we moved here. We did a lot of research. We flew down multiple times. We talked to people. We talked, to a few different real estate agents. So we made the decision of moving here, and we think it was really, truly the best. And our kids are loving the school, and, so far everything has been really amazing. So my beliefs, why do I want to run for the board position? I'm really passionate. I heard a lot of the candidates talk about this as well, about public school education. I myself went through public school for, I don't know how many years, but all the way through master's degree. So I truly believe that, public school is necessary for the community. I also believe no child should be left behind. Doesn't matter where you come from, your socioeconomics, your ethnicity, all kids are entitled to good public school education. I also believe in whole child development, which I think it's really great what St. Helena School District has to offer. I oftentimes talk to my coworkers or friends, people I went to school with that still live in the Bay Area, and they talk about their school. And I truly think, in addition to academics, the psychological, emotional aspect of kids when they're growing up in their development phase is so important. And I know the school really values that. And my kids actually had experience, talking to the school teachers in areas like that. And I believe, my background in terms of, growing up in Taiwan, the diverse background I grew up with, and also I currently still work for a company and, focus on communications and marketing, and I believe my experience can really bring valuable benefits to the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barak. Thank you. So now we will move to the question portion of the evening. So in order of that you just went in, so Susan, you will be first. The first question will be asked, and you will all answer it in that order. When the second question is asked, the number 2 person will start, and it will be around robin. So each one of the candidates will get a chance to answer the question first. Okay? Okay, so Jeannie has the first question, and Susan, you will be going to the podium to answer it. And Jeannie, you'll reread the question for each candidate. And there is a 2-minute, and is there anything for them to see up on the, is there anything for them to see up on the, for the timer? Okay, the timer is in the corner. Okay?
Oh.
Okay,
Ready.
so go ahead, Jeannie.
So the question number 1 is, what are the strengths of the St. Helena Unified School District, and what is your personal experience with the district?
Okay, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit, but I think the strengths are really the people and that includes the people of St. Helena. It's a very committed and involved community. And that is certainly true of teachers and staff in my many years of experience. Highly motivated and very, very caring. And I know Amy talked about this, the psychological needs. It's a very accepting environment with an understanding that learning is a multifaceted experience, and it attends to all of them. And if it doesn't, it tries to find a way to do that. My experience, I mean, I still have a horse in the race with my granddaughter who's at the elementary school. Two of my children went through this school system. As I told you, I worked at the media center. I computerized it, in fact, and taught in dual immersion, which was a program that I was involved in the development of it, which I know we no longer have, which is, I think, unfortunate. But the attempts to deal with kids where they are is something that I've noticed throughout the years. I mean, all kids come with their own challenges, and I think there's a very sincere effort, as much as possible, to meet and assess and meet each child's needs. I've been a classroom volunteer, hope to be one again. I'm currently still subbing, which I really enjoy. As I told you, I've been on one subcommittee, and I'm going to be starting on another. So it's been volunteer and paid and personal. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Okay. So question number 1, what are the strengths of the St. Helena Unified School District, and what is your personal experience with the district?
So when my family and I moved here a few years ago, what immediately struck me was the 4 unique campuses that provide an abundance of outdoor space and indoor space for a variety of instructional opportunities. I was so impressed by that, and so impressed by how unique each campus is too. The quality of instruction, and especially how the district really wants to be accountable for each student's academic achievement. For example, with the MAPS assessment in math and literacy, and how that assessment is used 3 times a year to help make sure that all kids are learning to their potential. And if they're not, how teachers and specialists can jump in and help support those kids. So really, really impressed with the MAPS assessment. Also, the district's ability to pivot during COVID. I mean, the fact that I think we were in the 7% of California being able to go back to school 5 days a week, starting November 3rd. I mean, that was incredible. So I was incredibly impressed with the board and the administration on how quickly they were able to come to a conclusion to bring the kids back to school 5 days a week. So I see those as huge strengths. My personal experience, I enjoy volunteering in the PTG. I'm currently the co-secretary, volunteering in my children's class every week prior to COVID. I was on one of the subcommittees my first year here, just trying to participate as much as I can. So thank you so much.
Sean?
Good evening. So question number 1, what are the strengths of the St. Helena Unified School District, and what is your personal experience with the district?
Yes, so similar to everyone and what I wrote is we just have this strong sense of community, and you just see the community participation for people that don't have children year after year in all the special events. I think that's really distinctive for our community. The support that we offer our students in and outside of the classroom. For example, one of my kids doesn't qualify for speech, but is borderline, and yet she's still given supplemental work once a month. And to me, that just shows how the staff will go above and beyond to help, even if they don't reach quite a threshold. And I think there's a lot of that where we attend to the gray area, which I think is a really big distinction and show in how we care for individual children. And also how we attend to the whole child. You know, it's the mental, it's the emotional, it's not just all about the numbers games. Sorry, not games, but numbers of where are we? Are you moving up? Are you moving down? It's okay that you move down, and here's why. You did well in this other area. It's normal. So the coaching that goes along with what I see from my children is amazing. I love that the district is open to change. You know, awareness of, hey, that didn't work so well. What can we do differently this time? Or this was great, let's continue it. And I appreciate the things that you recognize that maybe it's time to stop, change, pivot. Outside my personal experience from what I said, I was an avid tutor at the high school, mainly focusing on science and math within the different levels. I volunteered in all the classrooms for the kids and almost everything that is asked, and I'm a 5th grade parent rep for Laura for the elementary school. I think that's it. So,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so what are the strengths of the St. Helena Unified School District, and what is your personal experience with the district?
I think there are a couple of strengths. Number one, definitely I was very impressed with the resources that the school district has, especially coming from a large school district, public school district in Seattle. I think when my daughter came home and said we have our own, pencil boxes and all of this, and she was very excited. And also during COVID, and how quickly all the kids were able to get their iPad, earphone, and really just got everything set up so quickly. I think that was definitely something I was really impressed with. Number two, I really think, to Susan's point, is to me is the people, the staff, the teacher. I can't say enough every day when I go pick up my kids how happy they are. They come into the car, always had a great day. They talk about the day with teacher, they talk about their lunch, and they love their specials, bee steam. They look forward to that. And also, I really can feel that the teacher truly they love teaching the kids. So I think that is, those are, to me, some really important strengths. My personal experience with the district, I moved here almost 2 years, a little bit over 2 years ago, so most of the time we were in shutdown, COVID. But I have always enjoyed volunteering. So even before the shutdown, I volunteered to help with the planter boxes in my daughter's primary school classroom. So I would go every week and grow vegetables and talk to the kids. And I go in when it's Chinese New Year. I'll go in and talk about why Chinese people celebrate Chinese New Year. So for different just volunteering opportunities, and just recently I started to volunteer again. I think, the festival that's happening in 2 days. So that's my answer.
Thank you.
Now, we'll be moving on to question number 2, and Laura, you'll be starting with the first answer. And then Julio, you? Yeah. Okay.
Good evening.
Hi.
So question 2, what do you see as the basic purpose of public schools and the role of the Board of Trustees in fulfilling that purpose?
So I was thinking about this question, and I think that public education exists for a few main reasons. To prepare students for college and the workforce, to help children fulfill their diverse potentials, to care for their growth mindset. I think that we want to help students become well-rounded individuals, and to prepare students to have a productive and fulfilling life and to be good citizens. The role of the Board of Trustees in fulfilling the purpose, I think that the school board is critical to public schools. School boards are accountable for the performance of their schools, and to ensure that students are getting the best education that we can possibly give them. Thank you.
Good evening. Question 2, what do you see as the basic purpose of public schools and the role of the Board of Trustees in fulfilling that purpose?
This is going to be very repetitive, I think, but the purpose of a public education is make sure that everybody in the school district has an opportunity to learn things that they may not learn in a home environment. You know, it's social skills in the beginning, it's sharing, it's reading, it's learning, and then later on it's the problem solving. It's generating the next workforce. The role of the trustees, you know, I think from what I see, it's a lot of listening, it's a lot of learning, it's figuring out the best path for the students, the staff, and the community, and parents. I think you have to do a lot of, you know, making sure that what you're doing is following the ethical, legal path, ensure that we're following the rules and guidelines that are set out for you. You may not always like the decision you have to do, but it's something that, you know, we have boundaries that you work within. I think it's ensuring that the district is operating effectively, you know, physically responsible decisions, and, you know, living up to what they are set out to do. You know, are they meeting growth standards for the children, which is the primary focus of the education. And that's it.
Thank you.
Good evening. What do you see as a basic purpose of public schools and the role of the Board of Trustees in fulfilling that purpose?
So I think I pretty much agree with what Laura and Sean has been saying. It's definitely to prepare the kids to be a citizen of the world, prepare them to, you know, grow up one day and being able to join the workforce, prepare them to, and offer that environment for them to learn about their, you know, learn social skills, how to, you know, get along with people outside of your own family or your immediate circle of family. Another thing I think is really, really important for public school is to offer that diversity. I think, you know, as we were thinking about, you know, kids' education, and at one point we did consider, you know, private schools, and we just think the diversity aspect is really important for our kids. And, you know, I think that's really to be able to prepare them to basically understand there's a lot of different people, different culture, different background. I think that's one of, to me, a very important purpose of public schools. I think the role of the Board of Trustees is really to make sure that we monitor the process and enable that to, you know, happen, and make sure that the value of the school is being, you know, held. And to Sean's point, and making sure that a lot of the decisions, whether it's physical, whether it's, you know, from a financial standpoint or a curriculum standpoint, to help ensure that, you know, we hold the school district responsible. So I think that's my answer.
Good evening. Question 2. What do you see as a basic purpose of public schools and the role of the Board of Trustees in fulfilling that purpose?
Well, I think, of course, the basic purpose of any school is the education of the students in it. But I think the public school has a particular mission that goes beyond, includes that, but goes beyond it. I think the inclusiveness is vital. I think that the lessons that teaches children is not about things, but how to exist together, and provide them with a kind of education that allows them to think and participate. And I don't want to start waving a flag, but to be responsible and participatory citizens in our nation. So public schools teach kids how to deal with different socioeconomic groups, different individuals because of their culture, their religion, their language, their variety of experiences, and allows them to experience existing together cooperatively. And I think that's hugely important. The Board of Trustees has the responsibility of being responsive to the needs of the community and accountable for the school's performances, and is the one group that really can do this from a perspective that includes all the schools, and not just the education, but the logistics of that education. How is that done? How is it financed? And knows more about the intricacies and the interactions of all the different pieces of providing a public education at all the different levels for which they're responsible.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll be moving on to question number 3. And Amy, you can come to the podium for that. Oh, I'm so sorry. Sean, I'm sorry.
Hi. Okay, question number 3. What would you like to accomplish as a board member, and what strengths do you possess to accomplish those goals?
So for me, there are areas that from participating and sitting through board meetings that I just think I can really help with. I don't feel like there are things I could say that I want to come in and accomplish, because I think those are kind of the items that come to you as a board and you'll learn by being a part of it. I think the areas for me that I can help with are communication and community and parent awareness. I've seen through the last 3 years where items bubble up to the surface a month or 2 or 3 or 4 after a decision has been made, and it's a big there are many people that are upset and personally impacted, and I understand that, and I hope that we might be able to do something like say, hey, there are items on the agenda that might impact people and they may not be aware of it. Can we put this out publicly somehow? And again, I don't know all the rules of how it's governed, of what you can and can't say, so I realize there's probably some limitations or boxes within there, but how can we raise awareness early, get people involved in the process or get their opinions out early, and then on the tail end, how can we share why the decision was made, and hopefully try to make it in some of those really rough cases where this is not personal, it's just these are the boundaries with which we had to make the decision. So I think a lot of it for me would just be how can I help with communication, and having way too many children across way too many campuses and lots of parent engagements. I have lots of opportunities to share, and I've done that many times over the past few years. So I think that's an area where I could help with.
Good evening. Question number 3. What would you like to accomplish as a board member, and what strengths do you possess to accomplish these goals?
I think I'm going to repeat what Sean said here a little bit. I think I do think there's I can help with the communications aspect. I see that as a parent with 2 kids in the school district. I think there's a lot of communications that happens at the school level. I don't feel like I'm disconnected with what's happening at the school. But I do think, I think at the district level, there is things that we see in the news. For example, California passed, they're going to include something in the curriculum, and then we were like, okay, so is it going to come to our school's curriculum? What's going to happen? And we feel like we don't really have a place to go and ask these questions, and things are not really being communicated. So I feel like definitely communications is an area that I feel like could use some help. And as a, if I were to become a board member, that's an area that I feel like I can help with. That is kind of, in my mind, I feel like that is communications within our community. I also think there's an opportunity for us to communicate externally, outside of our community. And I only found that because when I recently talked to my friends and my coworkers, and nobody believed, that our school was open last November. And I feel like, it's, if we, for a town like St. Helena, the school is so integrated into the community, it would be a good idea to kind of talk about our experience, right? What the school we have here. And, just with COVID, people can work from home. There might be an opportunity to attract more people with families, right? They moved here and, and just grow our community. So I feel like there's communications we can do externally as well. And I have almost 20 years experience in marketing and communications, and that's what I do professionally. So I feel like I really have, just can help with achieving these goals.
Hi.
Hi.
What would you like to accomplish as a board member, and what strengths do you possess to accomplish those goals?
I'd like to continue to provide support and ensure accountability of the district, provide leadership and advocate for children and the teachers. And even though we've only been here 3 years, since I was able to jump in and participate in the classrooms at the primary and elementary school at the time, it really helped me get a finger on the pulse of the communities and the different campuses and the teachers and the principals. And so I learned a lot from being in those classrooms. I recognize losing a board member midterm can be disruptive to a board, not always, but sometimes. And so I'd like to minimize the disruption to help maintain momentum, especially during the pandemic. I learn quickly. I look forward to any sort of education that I can, any training and education for myself. So I would like to come right in and just start right away. And like I said, I do recognize that there can be some disruption. So thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. What would you like to accomplish as a board member, and what strengths do you possess to accomplish those goals?
Well, I sort of feel like if I were to be on this board, I'm sort of sitting on the shoulders of giants. We have just, I think, had some very excellent boards. And so I would like to continue the concern for accountability. I'd like to further transparency and community involvement and to continue with that, because I see that as having developed a great deal. I would also like to see some curricular developments that perhaps have been, that are important to me, and see, particularly in second language learning, to continue in a variety of ways. And I've had experience in doing this. I mean, I've been a parent, a student, an administrator, a teacher. So I come from this from a variety of experiences, but also I've worked in Title I schools and very entitled schools. And there are different ways of meeting these needs that I think I've experienced in different places that might be useful. And what I also have is a great deal of excitement for doing this.
Thank you.
So then, Amy? So how does an effective board member provide opportunities for engagement with diverse stakeholders in order to conduct informed and productive board deliberations on issues?
Sorry, the question came up a little bit later, so.
So I'll give you a minute.
Okay.
So it is a compound question. How does an effective board member provide opportunities for engagement with diverse stakeholders in order to conduct informed and productive board deliberations on issues?
You know, this is a very interesting question. I have obviously don't have experience being a board member, but I think, you know, from my professional experience, I mean, I work with, you know, just a large across teams, different groups of people. So I think it's always good to, especially when people have, there's different opinions and ideas, it's always good to go back to data. So I do think, you know, a lot of, for example, just look at what we just experienced, COVID. And when school first started last November, I was super nervous. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of parents were. But I think, you know, as long as we're prepared, we have data, and, you know, we work with, I'm sure, you know, the board members here all work with a lot of different teams to ensure that school opens with, you know, just they have all the necessary steps in place. And I think we also need to be patient, right? Because you know, I'm sure we're all learning. A lot of times, especially coming in, you know, it will be a brand new experience for me. I think I'm definitely planning on just listening, learning, and bring forth my personal experience and just contribute the way I can, and you know, to have, you know, positive impact for the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So question 4, how does an effective board member provide opportunities for engagement with diverse stakeholders in order to conduct informed and productive board deliberations on issues?
I think that the best way to find information to share is to be there and go out and participate. Participate in different committees. Of course, I know this is already done. Going out and being at the schools, talking to people and listening to them. Being involved in the community. Being involved with different educators, even people outside of the community, so that you can share the experiences that they may have had and the difficulties that they may have had to see if it can inform our decisions. I think that a lot of reading and finding out what the data is, not just for St. Helena, but in a larger sense, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel if it's already been rolling happily somewhere else in a community that is similar to ours in any way. So I think participation, just wide participation with all the people involved wherever they happen to be, and also trying to bring them in as well in different ways to have the community involved in learning about the schools and about the district and one another.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question 4. how does an effective board member provide opportunities for engagement with diverse stakeholders in order to conduct informed and productive board deliberations on issues?
Well, I've appreciated everything that some of the applicants that have gone so far have said. I agree with listening with a sympathetic ear and giving stakeholders ample time, an opportunity to share their concerns. I think that the board should always work on creating an environment, which I think this one does, where parents and community members feel like their voice is welcome, but not just welcome, taken seriously as well. And I know that board members do this at the superintendent subcommittees, being a part of one a couple of years ago, and seeing board members in action in those committee meetings. And also in the spring of 2020, when I personally reached out to a couple of board members just to gain some more personal information about how the district was doing and feeling, and maybe how parents could share a little bit of feedback about what we felt was really working at the time, and what we would like to see in the future. I really, really appreciated how this board, again, listened with a sympathetic ear and listened. It was wonderful. I also think that, I think that's it. I think I said everything I needed to say. Yeah, I was going to use world peace as one of my answers if I didn't have a response, but I think I don't have to. So.
Thank you.
Sean? How does an effective board member provide opportunities for engagement with diverse stakeholders in order to conduct informed and productive board deliberations on issues?
Well, I can't really match world peace, but that made me laugh. I was like, I'm thinking, well, I'm not bilingual, so I can't help, but my mom is, so maybe I'm going to have to bring my mom around with me through town. And I think for me, it's about being available, asking questions when you're talking to anyone you run into. What works? Ask them what works. What doesn't work? I know you guys have tried a lot of different things over the years for engagement. Keep doing what works. Pivot when it didn't. I know that a lot of times we've had low involvement from the Spanish-speaking community at most of the events we've had, whether it was the in-person town halls or the surveys or individual small groups. So I don't have an answer. I'm not saying that, but I know that's an area that needs continuous improvement and trying to figure out what might work. I remember what Dr. Wilson had always said at some of the school sites when we had the meetings in between back to school night, and it was, we're going to go to where the parents are because then they're going to hear us and then they're going to listen. So I think that's always been something that's effective, is how do you find where the people already are and try to get some of their time at that point. I love spending time at all the schools with the staff and the kids and just learning and observing. As far as more productive deliberations on issues, I don't know a lot of your boundaries and how you're governed to know how that can work, because I know that there are rules on discussions and time and all that. So I appreciate that you guys have had a lot more of the open sessions to hear from community, from teachers, from students even. And I think that that's really probably something to continue that's worked well. That's it. World peace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. So now we do have a public comment. So during the public comment portion, members from the public may speak. Your subject must remain on the subject of the agenda tonight, which is the 4 candidates, and you are limited to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to provide public comment at this time?
President, how do you?
Yes,
Oh, sorry.
there's someone has.
just-
Please state your name and your address, please.
Thank you. I'm Anna Shuto. I'm 1100 Paulson Court, and I have 2 kids, one at the elementary school and one at the RLS, new this year. And I'm here in support of Laura Simon because of, well, first off, I want to say I'm so grateful for all the applicants that are here, and just to see people that want to show up and do this big job for our community makes me feel so hopeful and just appreciative. So thank you. And I'm here in support of Laura because I've seen her and worked with her directly on the PTG and through the Give Big work and just on issues throughout the years. So I wanted to make sure that I spoke to that because I've seen how hard she's worked, and I've seen how thoughtful she's been and researched, and I've really respected her and the work she's done. So I'm here in support. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Public comment at this time? And there was no public comment submitted, correct? No. So we do have the board is in receipt.
Yes,
of-
the board
yes,
is, in
okay, so
is
the-
in receipt of a number of emails that I believe all board members received and read.
So we have confirmed that there were a number of emails. There were 5 in total that are not on tonight's agenda as supplementary material. The board received 5 additional emails in support of candidate Simon. And those emails will be a part of the minutes of this meeting in an attachment at the end. All trustees have read those emails. So now it is time for us to begin discussion. Before we do so, I would like to, on behalf of the board, I really want to thank all 4 candidates. I know that this is, it is a difficult and excruciating process to put yourself out there like this. And I say that all of you did it gracefully and with professionalism, and that speaks well to all 4 of your candidatures. And we really appreciate the fact that we have 4 very, very qualified candidates for this position. And also we're grateful that there are 4 people that want to participate in the work of our district at this level. So, board members, would you like to add anything, just in general thanks, if you wish?
Well, I just want to say, yes, what I completely agree with what Maria said, but it's also very, very difficult for us as well. This is my 3rd time doing this, and it doesn't get any easier. And I think that probably tonight it's probably one of the most difficult decisions. So I do want to let you know about that for sure.
Yeah, I just want to speak on the process. I was on that side of the table when I became a board member, and it is challenging to come up here and speak your mind, but I do appreciate everyone's commitment to the public schools, and just, regardless of, who we select, I'm very happy that everyone is involved in our district at some level. And so I know it is challenging to have more than obviously 1 candidate. So, but happy that everyone is very qualified and passionate about our schools.
I too was on that side of the podium when I came to this position, so please know that I completely know what it is to be like in your shoes at this point tonight. I also want to thank you. It gives me hope as well that there are people who want to be interested and participate at this level, because it's really wonderful to see that. I want to, oh God, I just had another thing I wanted to say and I lost track of it. I'm sorry. Carry on, President Howe, because I lost it.
So now we are going to go around and highlight what struck us as the best qualifications of each of the candidates throughout this process. And I'm wondering if I'm willing to start unless another board member feels more comfortable. I took a lot of notes, and I have to say every single one of you brings something that this district could really use as a board member. And each one of you has different strengths. And it's very hard because we can use all of you. But what struck me about Susan's background is that she's been here so long in the community. She knows the community very well. It's 30 years. That's also something that Sean shares. So we have two candidates that know this community very well and know, obviously, I'm sure, know a lot of people in the community. And that is helpful in this position. We also have two candidates who are relatively new, Laura and Amy, but they might be able to bring something, new perspectives, coming to our community with new eyes. I think that is something that is always important because they might see things differently than someone who's been here a long time. So I see positives for all four of the candidates in that respect. Three of the candidates have a very strong background in education. I know that Sean was an avid tutor for over a year here, or almost 2 years. So she's been an employee of the district. Susan also has worked in the district, so they know how the district works from the other side, and that's also very important. What did strike me was when we came to the question of the role of the board, there was not so much concentration on finance, but that is a big part of our job. And three of you did mention finances, but it's actually not a passing thing. It's something that we have to look at all the time. And I think those candidates, that was Amy, Sean, and Susan, all mentioned the importance of sound finances and accountability with our respect to our finances. And finally, the fact that Sean has watched so many of our board meetings and attended so many of our board meetings, that is a very, very important thing, because it's rare that someone will watch our meetings all the way to the end, but that is what we do. And some of the things may seem to the outside as routine and boring, but we do have to study all of those aspects of every single item that we vote on. And a lot of time goes into studying what we vote on and what gets brought to be voted on. And so I think that the fact that Sean has watched many of our board meetings, and she showed interest in running for the position over a year ago, and that she attended several of you attended the workshop. Sean and Laura, you both attended the workshop. So that means that the two of you have been thinking about this, not just for the last month, but you have been considering it for over a year. So that is also a big plus, I believe. I'll leave it up to whoever would like to go next.
I'm not ready yet.
So we got this list of evaluating the candidate. I think for the most part, everyone checks those boxes, but I think for this one, I mean, obviously we have 4 excellent candidates. I took lots of notes as well. I just kind of looked at the strengths as well, just to kind of narrow it down, because I feel like everyone here is obviously has a buy-in into the district, is passionate, obviously has kids in the district, which is you know, something that's important as well. And so yeah, I kind of looked at it as well as kind of like Maria did as far as with Susan. She obviously has an extensive educational background, and you know, she's been at every level of it. So she's been, you know, volunteer, has been a teacher, has been on the administrative side, has been involved in the community and continues to be. So again, that's something that's very commendable, that even right now with you said your granddaughter is the last student of yours, that you're still continuing to, you know, obviously be a part of the community and be a part of the district, which is super important. I like something that I like that you said about the 4th question about how the board works through a different communication and processes with the different groups. You know, you said that talking and listening, and yeah, that's one of the biggest things that we as board members do, and it's a way of getting to know the community. So I think that is definitely very crucial and important to have. So I'm going to go ahead and just go through each candidate. With Laura, same thing. She obviously has a very extensive career in public education. I liked a lot of the things she said in her opening statement, as in terms of, you know, being part of this board. It does require sometimes to be a good listener, and I like the fact that you can do that, and that you're so committed to public education, and obviously you have an understanding of, yeah, I think you said something about being objective and sometimes making decisions that aren't the most popular, but that sometimes have to be made. So I think that that's really important as a board member to kind of understand that, as far as you know, making the decision that you feel is best. And obviously, like I said, you have a really strong background in education. So, and the other thing I also liked, or that I heard from you that struck me, is again listening with an empathetic ear. I think that that's really important, and the fact that you mentioned about the voice of you know, groups that maybe don't have a voice in our district. I think that is something that we need to continue to see as a board, and I'm very happy to know that you're you know, that you've already done some of that work in the other districts, and you understand that that's, you know, important. So I'll move on with Amy. So yeah, Amy, again, you have an excellent background just in, I think you said, with marketing. I think in your application, I read you do like a lot of communicating and fundraising. So yeah, that's something that's super important as a board member, is that, you know, you have to be able to communicate, and I think an important piece is really connecting to not just you know, one particular group of parents, but to be, you know, versatile and be able to communicate and connect with various backgrounds and cultures. So I think that that's something that I saw in your application that that stood out and that was very strong. I think I don't think you really talked about it as much, but I think you said your background, that you were an immigrant and that you've been through the public school system. I think that speaks a lot to, you know, that experience that you've had, and it brings a different perspective and a lens, because again, we do have families from different backgrounds and cultures, and that's one of the you know, one of the areas that you may have you know, an experience and understanding of. So I do value that as part of your application. And yeah, as far as the strengths, yeah, the communication is what I had down, and obviously you have a vast experience. I think you said 20 years of marketing. So, and then with Sean, so Sean, again, it seems like you're already, I mean, as a parent, that's something that you have been in different settings, different schools, and you said you were a great communicator, and I think you mentioned parent engagement, so you have a lot of knowledge of families in St. Helena already. And I think that that's crucial as well, because again, we're, as board members, we're trying to, make best decisions of all families. And so I think that having that strong background is very important. You, again, already understand the kind of the school system. You've been part of it as a avid teacher, and you've been to our board meetings, so you kind of have a good understanding and background of what it is to be a board member and how the district works. I think that is important because, again, we are replacing a board member, and I think Laura mentioned it as well, just making that transition as smooth as possible, I think would be beneficial to our board and to our district. So I think that you have a lot of familiarity within our districts and with parents and families. So I think that's all I have for now.
Okay, so a lot of it already has been said. I think the striking thing for me is obviously all 4 of our candidates are engaged. There's no doubt about that. All 4 of you are engaged in our schools, and that is an amazing foundation for all of you and for our schools and our district. So thank you for that. I too saw some of the things that you pointed out, that, to have more years of experience versus 2 with less years. Again, not looking at that at all as a liability, much like you said, that it was, you never know what a new set of eyes can see that sometimes an older set of eyes doesn't see. One of the things that I think about when I think about the role of the board is that, we are a governing body in charge of oversight of all students. Personal interests definitely have to go by the wayside because we're thinking about all students. And all 4 of you spoke to that. There were a couple that did strike out to me that talked about the individual curriculum and the interventions available for students. Sean, you spoke to that as well. And I appreciate that because, we have a diverse student body, and all of those students need the attention and the resources to them. I also appreciated all the communication pieces that everybody talked about. That it's important. We hear what you're saying right now as well. We hear that you're saying that communication needs to perhaps look different. It may need to be improved. But again, the way the communication works sometimes on this level is something that you may not be familiar with. So again, that just kind of comes with the role. But that's important to you, all of you. I could hear that was important, and I appreciate hearing that here tonight, to know that you had ideas, what you had thoughts about it, what you wanted to see from a board. So you all spoke to that. I am a believer in boots on the ground and learning your way through the school systems by joining committees, by, of course, volunteering. All of those things build a really a deeper foundation and education and learning and how this district works. And a lot of you have sit on the subcommittees, and that's great. I know, Sean, you have sat on many subcommittees from the sounds of it and from what your application said. Laura, you've done the same thing as well. And so have you, Susan. So it's not that those aren't, those are super valuable to us as a district. So I think, I do think that all 4 of you bring a lot of the same strengths. I think some of you have strengths that perhaps rise a little bit more to the top than a couple of others, but it doesn't necessarily mean that those are weaknesses. I want to be clear about that. I think one of the other thing that I like to hear about the role of the board and what do you intend accomplish was the listening and the asking questions, being available. Those are spot on. Sean, you talked about that. Laura, you talked about that as well. And asking, and Susan, you mentioned something about, knowing about getting the opinions of everybody in the community. So that is super, that was super important to me to hear that as well. So those are my comments right now.
Yeah, so I would, I definitely want to say thank you very much for your time this evening and for your commitment to our schools. I mean, each one of you are very engaged in the process, and you're here for your student as well as other students, and you're here for the long run. So I really appreciate that. I'm similar with, well, first I'll go with evaluating the candidate. So I just circled a couple of things that I thought were especially important. And I'll have to say at the very top when it says have a sense of humor, that definitely is needed sometimes just to keep going, you know, and it's not humor about, you know, you're humoring me. It's just a humor of being able to, like, it's kind of that's kind of stress humor that you have, you know, to you know, because it's a difficult job being up here and making decisions sometimes. It really is. A leader in his or own occupation or community group, give the necessary time to this important position, an interest in the public schools, the community, and in every child. And I saw that from each of you as when you answered your questions, where it's, you know, and also to able to think independently and objectively about a problem. I mean, there weren't that many questions to be able to demonstrate that, but I really think that you have that within you. All of you had that within yourself to be able to think about things and ask other people about things and make decisions, and that's really important with this job as well. I'm definitely with Lisa in this, Trustee Pelosi, with the boots on the ground. I think it's very important that you do have experience in the classrooms with the parent groups, the site council, certainly the subcommittee meetings, just because it gives you kind of that the knowledge of how a district works. Because I think from the outside, there's a lot of unknown about how really the district works and the kind of the hierarchy of how it works. And as a board member, you learn that very quickly. I'm just looking at my notes, excuse me. I did, like the other 30 board members, I'm very happy that the communication question was on this, because I really, communication in our district, and I think it's communication in probably a lot of other districts and a lot of corporations, is definitely a challenge. And it's like it's how are we able to reach out and communicate to everyone, and have them communicate back to us as well. And that's a challenge where we feel like there's a lot of communication going out, but people don't feel that communication from us or respond to that communication, so we don't know even if it's working. But that's not here nor there. I just want to say that I really appreciate the thought that you had with communication, and it actually gave me a couple of ideas as far as like how we could maybe improve our communication in the near future as well. I think that like they said with those Laura and Amy, who have not been in our district as long as maybe the other two candidates, that is a new perspective, and I think that's a great thing. I think it's very much an advantage to a board to hear different ideas, and I think that the your background in education that Susan and Laura had, and Sean just with the AVID and things like that, that's very important as well. Amy, I really appreciated your making the diversity important, and it is. I mean, that's very important to us as a school board and as a district. So I appreciate what you continue to say about diversity and making it feel stronger here making our communities feeling stronger here in our district. I really thought that how you talked about communication to bring people together, I think is wonderful, because that's another thing that we certainly could do as well, is bring more people together into groups and maybe different groups. So I again, like I said from the very beginning of when I first started speaking, it's a very difficult decision, because the four of you are awesome, and I'm so happy that you're here. And I really appreciate everything that you've shared with us tonight.
Yes, I would also like to echo what Jeannie and Lisa said about communication. The board is aware that we need to work on communication. We have had workshops on trying to improve our communication as a board with our stakeholders. And the difficulty is that we are a board, so we're not individual people that can just go out and say whatever we want, and that is something that that it makes us different than possibly a candidate for any other political office. We do not get to speak as the board when we're individuals. So it's a different style of communication. It's a very different style of communication. It's not what comes naturally. But I appreciate that all of you seem to want to improve communication in our district, and that's something that we know that it's something that we have been working on, and we can always use continuous improvement in that area. And tonight has been a learning experience for us as much as it has been for you. So we appreciate you sharing your thoughts on communication in the district. You're all very qualified. And this is a very difficult process for us. I will say that I will take the next step and say that two of you have obviously been thinking about this for a long time, and that you both attended the board candidate workshop, virtual workshop back in the middle of COVID. So I do feel that that is something that we should take into consideration, that both Laura and Sean have been thinking about this for over a year, and they have continued to pursue the requirements to go forward and put themselves in the position where they could be selected as a board member. So I would like to hear your thoughts, the rest of the board.
Well, I don't agree. I think everyone has a valid, whether you attended the training or not. I think all four candidates are obviously passionate and qualified. So to me, it's open to all four. So I don't think it should just be the two that have attended the workshop, because again, maybe the other two didn't know about it, but they're here, and part of this is just showing up. So I think that's important to, and it should be valued as well. So.
Yeah, I agree with that as well, Julio. So.
So then I will ask if anyone has strong feelings about a single candidate moving forward, and if they would like to make their case to the other board members.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, reviewing the application's one thing, but getting to hear your guys' voice and talk to you in person, and just getting to know you, even though it's been like an hour and a half, but definitely just it helps just to put a picture or a face to a application. So I think that was helpful, just to hear, your thought process and what you want to accomplish and bring to the board. So to me, one of the things that stood out as well was in an area that is a continuous improvement, as we like to say in the district, is a parent engagement. So that's something that I'm looking at in terms of the candidates. And so there's a couple candidates that are already engaged in the community and engaged with parents. But I think ultimately, for me, the candidate that kind of was like, had the education piece, has been in the school, or has been, involved in schools, and I think has the right idea about parent engagement is Laura Simon. And I think that she said something about creating an environment that is welcome to everyone, and something that she elaborated on was that everyone's voice matters. And I think that that's important to hear that from the candidates, to know that, because we have lots of different backgrounds and cultures and socioeconomic, and I think that hearing that is something that I value, and I think it's something that I want to continue to push forward as a board member, and I think it's important to me. So to me, Laura Simon is right now the top pick that I have.
Lisa, do you feel ready to speak? Or
Well, I think this is just such a challenge. But to me, it's not that I don't disagree with you. Please know that's not the case at all. I'm trying to wrap my head around about what some of the main characteristics I know that would serve this board well and serve the students well, and therefore our district. And, it is definitely, there is parent engagement, and what parent engagement does is make our students successful. And ultimately we are here to serve our students. And so that's what I kind of keep going back to as well. Who do we add on to this governing board that will help us shape policies and procedures that will make sure that we're giving the best that we can give to our students, TK through 12. I see that being beneficial with somebody with an education background, but I don't necessarily think it's also, that you have to have an education background to be able to determine policies that are best for students and families in our community. So it's certainly not a liability by any means, but I'm just saying I don't think that disqualifies somebody else because they don't have a background in education. I had two candidates that were kind of bubbling to the surface for me, and I'm just kind of looking over some responses to see if one kind of can continue to bubble up. Right now, I be honest, I was leaning towards Sean is where my feeling was going there, just knowing some of the responses that she gave regarding using data and knowing what the board procedures look like, having more experience and seeing how the board operates, sitting on those committees, sitting on site councils, building relationships within the schools and within the communities. So that's kind of where my thought process was going at this point.
So I have to say that I agree with both Trustee Pelosi and Trustee Olguin, because the two that bubbled up the top for me were Sean and Laura. So it's and to tell you the truth, I know that either one of them would be an amazing asset to our board. I know that I like having the kind of the new perspective from someone in our community, new in our community, excuse me. But also I know that it's nice to have someone who has been in St. Helena for a long time, family and things as well. So I'm just going to stop right there because I'm really at that with either one.
So we are going to have to talk this out a little more because maybe I wasn't clear enough when I spoke originally. I think that it speaks to your commitment to an idea of becoming a board member if you still feel interested a year after you've looked into it, I think is what I was trying to say when I said when Sean and Laura attended the meeting. If you still, after all that has gone on over the past year, and you're still willing to put yourself out there, I think that speaks to the commitment that a board member needs. So maybe and this is the problem of being a board of trustee, is that you can sometimes, it doesn't always come out the way you want it to, and you're on a camera and lots of people are looking. But that was the point that I was trying to make. And that's not to say that Amy and Susan aren't excellent candidates. I think any one of you would be able to do this job. Every single one of you would be able to do this job. Absolutely. And I've known Susan a long time, and I know I know her personally the best out of any of you, and I know how committed she is to her granddaughter's education, and I just know how active she's been. She's been at many of our subcommittee meetings. She's been on many of our subcommittees, and involved in a lot of the district for years. So, Amy, I also come from a family that has, my husband is not born in the United States. He's not an American. So I really appreciate your perspective of making sure that our students are citizens of the world. That resonates very strongly with me personally, but that is where I have to take the personal equation out of where my decisions tonight lie. And then I would have to say right now, because I've seen Sean probably at more board meetings than I've seen Sean and Susan at numerous board meetings. They both have come to speak on issues that were important to them, and the very fact that they've attended board meetings is very important, because sometimes we don't have very many people attending board meetings. But again, my top two candidates are Sean and Laura.
So President Haug, so what you look at that as you're looking at that, for you, that's important because it shows the intention behind commitment is what?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Yes. So it is a big commitment, and it is, so it seems that we have two top candidates chosen between the four of us. Jeannie, do you have any further thoughts?
I wish that for like an election, if you get like a tie vote or something, you draw a straw. I wish we could do that right now, you know? So I don't, if I
Well, if it helps anyway, I feel that the fact that Sean watches meetings and attends meetings, that is huge, because she knows
That's our
how
commitment,
we
yeah.
operate.
yeah,
And that is,
yeah, I would say that definitely is an asset, because you're seeing, and also with the all of her service as a volunteer throughout the years as well. And I know that Laura is that way as well, where she's just the volunteer work.
I do feel that we have to mention, we did receive a lot of endorsements from the community for Laura. And
That's
we do
right.
have to recognize that as well. Lisa, are you ready to speak?
No, I keep looking at this sheet about
I know.
evaluating the candidate, because this really helps us take out, it helps you can boil it down to even some check marks, and, you think about some of the things, will the candidate, I think, we know the will candidate to give the necessary time. I think, it's the middle section. Is the candidate, what are those, in those bullet points, what candidate meets the most of those requirements? And as I kind of go through those bullet points, for me, I have to say that I feel Sean, I can check off more of those middle bullet points for Sean as a candidate.
What do you think, Maria?
So, well, I mean, it seems that we have two candidates at the top, and we need to deliberate until we choose one.
No, I understand.
So
Yeah.
that's,
No.
so I think that we need to, maybe we can go through the checklist, each of us, and it might help for us to do it out loud.
Oh,
In the middle points.
I mean, Julio, are you okay with that process, or would you just rather have more discussion?
Trustees, if I could remind you to turn your microphone on when you're talking.
Thank you, sorry about that. Julio, would you like to have more discussion, or do it that way?
it seems
I
like we
mean-
might have more discussion rather than.
Yeah, I
Okay,
don't-
let-
I mean, I don't
little
think
more
it should be.
discussion. So
determined.
Julio, we have
Weird.
why don't
I'll
we?
just harp back, I mean, I focus with Laura just on her, on the parent engagement piece, but obviously the students are the top priority. And so to me, just her education and engagement already within the school, that to me is like she has a full package in terms of what I think that would make a great board member. And just the idea that she is newer to the community, I think that, having that unique perspective, it is an advantage to me, because again, we want, to me, I mean, obviously our board works in cohesion, but it is important to have different perspectives, and not all of us just, and I'm not saying that that's what we do, but I'm just saying, I just feel like she's gonna bring a fresh set of eyes to a district, to, some of the district things that we're working on and focus on it, and I think that she, out of all the, all the candidates have their strengths, but I just feel like she's, to me, has the complete package for everything that I'm looking for.
And that's a good point as far as that, whereas, because we have I think a new perspective would be helpful, just a new thoughts. It's so hard.
I will make a comment back to the candidate statements that we received. Laura did speak to the RLS fields, and that happens to be something that we've been holding meetings about for the past several months. So it's interesting that she's aware of something that we're in the process of working on right now.
I could definitely go either way, but I'm thinking that the new perspective might be good, might be a good, I mean, but the thing is it just seems like that if that's the only thing that I'm, because because I think as far as everything else, it seems like they're equal, with exception of possibly the amount of experience, obviously the amount of experience in the classroom and stuff. I would think. I don't know. Because I don't know the quantity of that. I could definitely go with. I think Laura would be a good candidate for this position.
President Haug, typically in board meetings, you never go more than about an hour and 15 without a break because of the mask and ability to breathe. So would you like to take a quick break?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. So yes, we will be taking a 5-minute break, and we'll return at, let's make it a 10-minute break so people have time to go to the restroom, and we'll return at 5 minutes to 8.
And there are restrooms downstairs as well as a single restroom on this floor.
And
my aching old bones.
I would like to remind all board members that we will not be speaking to the candidates during this break.
score, yes. Is this the one where they hit the little ball or they?
I used to not know either, but now.
I even bought baseball for dummies when I got married to my husband, yeah. It's still sitting on the shelf unopened.
Good evening. I'd like to reconvene. So, I actually spent our break looking over my notes, and I just I want to let all of our candidates know that there is going to be an election in a little over a year. So for everyone, for the three who are not chosen tonight, I would like you to seriously consider your candidature for the 2022 board election. For there will be 3 seats that are for full terms up, and then the seat that is for the half term. The continuation of this term will also be up, so there will be 4 openings. Potential openings on the board, and I know that sometimes the incumbents usually win, but you never know. Maybe the community decides that they want to change things, and I would encourage every single one of you to run if you're not selected tonight. At the same time, I'd like to remind you that we can always use help on our superintendent subcommittees if you're not already serving on one. Jeannie, you seem to be leaning towards Laura, yeah?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes. And then Lisa, have you rethought your position at all?
No, but you can go ahead.
Okay.
You can go ahead and make a motion.
Okay.
President Haug, that's
So
fine.
I would like to ask for a motion on candidature. Do I have a motion to nominate a candidate?
I'll make the motion to nominate Laura Simon as the next board member.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
So and those opposed?
Opposed.
So that's 3-1. Laura, congratulations.
Yeah. Welcome.
And for the 3 candidates that were not selected tonight, please stay involved in our schools because we need you. You're all very, very important parts of our community, our school community, and important to our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, very much.
President Haug,
We have to actually, I'd like a
Adjourn the
motion
meeting.
to adjourn the meeting tonight.
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried, meeting adjourned. It is